There was not much they could do in terms of treatment other than surgery. Oats in the morning is probably the best advice that I got. Better than any sort of productivity hack I have ever tried to do. I was in hospital, in the ER, getting multiple blood transfusions because I was losing so much blood. That's what we've been led to believe, that fruit and vegetables are healthy. The results really just start speaking for themselves. You're not alone. You're not crazy. People really don't have a chance. They think they're eating healthy food, but most of it is garbage. All the vegans that I knew are no longer vegan. People are really finding ways to feel their best and feel healthy by not prescribing to the traditional medical systems. It is really the red pill, and then it opens your eyes too. Once you see, you can't unsee it.
Hey folks, it's Dr. ShawnBaker here. Hey, if you or someone you love is suffering from chronic disease and you're tired of just managing symptoms with potions, pills, and procedures, I want you to check out Revero.com. Our team of dedicated professionals is committed to tackling the root cause of your issue and finally getting you healthy. Hurry up though, our spaces are filling up very quickly. Welcome. Today we have with us Jordi, who is down in Australia, and he is kindly doing this at something like 2:00 in the morning. So I really appreciate your doing this in general, but also for staying up so late or getting up so early, however it works out. Anyway, Jordi, I guess maybe to start, tell us who you are.
Yeah, so I live in Australia, Melbourne, Australia, and I just work from home, and I do 3D design and 3D renders for products. That's my day job. And I stumbled across this little thing called the Carnivore diet, and it's radically changed my life ever since. Now I am producing content about the carnivore diet and talking about it every single day, converting my parents, my sister, my friends around me all to do the carnivore diet. And so it's, that only happened like 6 months ago. So a lot's changed since then.
So obviously you're in, down in Victoria, Melbourne. My former wife used to live there for a while. She did a Fulbright scholarship down there many, many years ago, interestingly. But I've never been. I lived in New Zealand for a while, but never got across the Tasman Sea to see Australia. Hopefully one day. So 6 months, so not a super long time, but long enough to notice an improvement, I guess. What convince you to what was going on? I mean, why bother going carnivore? A lot of people are like, I'm fine, I'm just eat whatever, I'm happy. What pushed you over the edge, or what made you decide to try this?
It's a great question. I was struggling with some like pretty severe digestive problems. I was bleeding every time I went to the toilet. I had eczema and pretty bad bloating every single day, gas, I had gastritis, and I was, particularly when it comes to the bleeding, I was getting surgeries, and my wife had like a strong belief that food really changes the way, it really impacts our health. And she would ask the doctors, hey, is this problem food related? Is there something that we can do with our diet to change the symptoms so that I don't end up having to get just surgeries after surgeries and just be on this downward cycle where it's either medications or surgeries? And we wanted to stop going to the hospital. So previously we had tried the vegan diet. At this point, we were on a very clean, high fiber diet because fiber is good for digestion, apparently.
Allegedly.
Yeah. And then we came across the carnivore diet. It was people that suffered with eczema. We heard some really good stories and results with that. So we were just at a point where even on a high fiber diet, my symptoms were still coming back. So I had to try something crazy. It felt crazy at the time. And so I just went out to the butcher. I started without knowing too much. I just went, okay, I'm just going to do it. Like, how hard could it be? Just go out and eat meat, and just bought as much meat as I would. And just started eating it. And there were so many other benefits outside of just my own conditions that I pretty much immediately felt that, I was really, really excited about it.
Before we go into that, so you've got this condition, digestive, and you're bleeding. You know, it's obviously a real issue. Had you sought out health care from a physician? Did they give you a diagnosis? Did they want to give you medications? Did they talk to you about that? What was a treatment up to that point?
Yeah. Yeah. So I had the colonoscopies, and so it was hemorrhoiditis, and yeah. So there was not much they could do in terms of treatment other than surgery. So I received surgery, and that would fix it, but the problem started to come back again. And that's basically it. So it was like, okay, so I fixed it, but then it's coming back. So I'm like, well, I'll fix it again, but is it just going to keep coming back?
Okay. And did they have dietary advice for you, the surgeon and whoever else was involved?
Well, they didn't, and we were pressing them. So they really didn't want to talk about food at all, like just not interested. One guy even said, this is totally not food related. This has nothing to do with what you're eating. And then other people, they suggested fiber. And that's basically it. Just fiber. Take like a fiber supplement, or just eat oats in the morning is probably the best advice that I got.
Well, I don't know if it's how good the advice was. Probably some of the only advice. And that did not help, correct? Did that make it better, worse, the same? What was the results of adding more fiber in?
Look, it did help. It was an improvement, but the problem did come back. So it's not like it solved the problem.
How old were you at that time? Or I guess not too much fun time.
This is like a couple of years ago, so 30 years old.
30 years old. Okay. And what had your traditional diet been prior to that? Did you have a specific diet, or just eat whatever was available?
Yeah, so I was on a vegan diet, and we were eating relatively clean. We were in good shape, but at this point we had some eggs as well mixed in, and we were coming off the vegan diet, salmon, chicken, that sort of thing, so lots of stir fries and things like that. And when we were taking things really seriously, we cut out all processed food, seed oils, everything. We were trying to really clean up the diet, just whole foods only, but very high fiber. And that still wasn't helping.
Okay. And the original reason to go vegan, was it you health benefits, environmental, animal care, a woman? I don't know. What was the reason for that?
It definitely ticks the woman box. So when I met my wife, she was vegan, and she had been vegan for like 10 years. I just didn't really even care about what I ate at this point. I was just eating whatever was cheap and would fill me up, basically. And then she sort of showed me that, hey, you can actually really improve your health through food, being vegan at the time. And so, yeah, I was vegan for that reason.
Yeah, I think a lot of men do that.
Why else would we give up our steaks?
Okay, so obviously, helped a little bit. Didn't improve the condition fully to your satisfaction anyway. So you went to the butcher, or got a bunch of meat, and started doing, I guess, a carnivore diet. How did that start? How did that go? When did you notice differences and things like that?
Well, I really started to notice things within the first week. So, particularly not going to the bathroom was a big one when it comes to my digestion. I think I went maybe once or twice, and when I did go, it was such low volume, and it was such a surprise. Like, oh wow, that's it. That doesn't seem right, and I think actually confused it with constipation when I actually didn't have much volume, and I learned that lesson that you don't actually need to go as much, but also just having the break between going to the bathroom was really, really good for my, like, yeah, without going into too much detail. So it would allow me to rest and actually recover between sessions. So, and it was super easy to go. So that was like a win straight away. I was like, this is really, really good. Even if it's a temporary diet for me, just having this time to heal and recover, I saw it as an immediate benefit. And then things where it really surprised me was my energy was very consistent, and my brain focus, I couldn't believe how much I was able to concentrate throughout the day. And this really, really helps with my work, especially when I'm running my own business, being able to focus from the moment I wake up till I put my head and go to sleep. I saw that as an immediate benefit, and better than any sort of productivity hack I have ever tried to be able to focus and tried to be able to achieve more tasks. Just changing my diet was incredible for that. And I noticed that like within the first 3 days, I was like feeling on top of the world. And so it was honestly within the first 7 days that I was like, I set myself, I'll just try it for 30 days. But I think this is really going to shape the way I think about nutrition moving forward, just because of how good I felt.
Yeah, and you said, and this is a common finding. People notice that their bowel frequency goes down, the volume goes down, just because literally they're just not wasting as much. They're absorbing more nutrition. And that would have been probably the complete opposite on a high fiber vegan diet, where you're probably having multiple large bowel movements a day, I would imagine. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think that's how the physiology works. And so if you've got something that's irritated, that's not helping in any way. Your wife, obviously, at a vegan, I guess you guys said you were transitioning away from that. So she was okay with this, I assume. No ethical dilemmas or anything like that. What made her decide to leave veganism out of curiosity?
She was having a lot of repeated dreams about eating a lot of eggs, like just a mountain of eggs. And she was dreaming about it. And she just really took it as a sign, as like, maybe my body's trying to tell me something. And so we first introduced eggs, and then it's just been a transition since then. And she was vegan for health reasons. It wasn't so much an environmental or save the animal sort of thing, but she really believed that it was for health. And if her body was telling her something different, then she was going to listen to it.
Yeah, fair enough. So now you've been doing it about 6 months. You said, you had this primary reason for doing it, which was the gut issues. I mean, you mentioned some eczema as well. That is it completely gone now? Everything good with that, with regard to those things?
Yeah. So my digestive problems have completely gone. I can't believe that. Yeah, it's not really something I even think about anymore. And my eczema, it is significantly improved, and that took a while. I think I saw it wasn't getting worse like within the first 30 days when I was trying it, but going beyond that, where it goes for, I think it was like maybe a couple of months, is when I started to see it disappear. But I have discovered that dairy can be a big trigger for my eczema. So I do have the occasional flare-ups when I have too much dairy. And so it is still ongoing, and sometimes it's good, sometimes, but it's never as bad as it was when I first started. Let's just say
the
that.
dairy one is not uncommon. I've seen a lot of people talk about that with regard to several skin conditions. So it does seem to be a problem for yet several people. So how remind me again, how long did you have those digestive issues that are now completely gone? How many years did you suffer with that?
Look, I have had that for it could be like 5 years, 7 years, progressively getting worse each year, up until the point where I was in hospital in the ER getting multiple blood transfusions because I was losing so much blood. And yeah, it was getting to a point where it was very, very severe.
Yeah, that's certainly significant. All right, now you said that outside of those issues, you noticed a number of other benefits as well. So what might those be?
Oh yeah. One crazy one that I did not see coming was I stopped snoring, this is something I've had all my life. I just thought, I didn't know there was a cure to snoring. And yeah, my wife just noticed, hey, you're not snoring anymore. So that was a surprise. I still don't even really understand how that one works. And then when I brush my teeth, my gums stop bleeding. And that was always something that no matter, I would brush my teeth regularly, but that just now they just don't bleed anymore. And there was, I would have a lot of gas all the time and bloating. And all of that just disappeared pretty much overnight just by eating only meat.
Yeah, the snoring one. Did your weight change much? Because some people, when they lose weight, they stop snoring. But I mean, it sounds like you were already fit and lean. I think maybe
Not significantly. I lost like 6 kilos.
Okay, well, that's maybe some of that. Sometimes we see a little bit of inflammation, maybe swelling in the pharynx and some of the other areas that might lead to that. So maybe that's what helped. I've seen a lot of people talk about snoring apnea improving on carnivore. That's again something we see pretty regularly. So how about negatives? Any downsides, transition wise or other, since you've been doing this carnivore thing?
Yeah, there were some moments where I was really struggling with fatigue and headaches. And there was obviously coming off sugar as well. I think there were some drawbacks within the first week. But that, and the good thing is I was documenting everything I was doing online. I would just, every single day, I was just posting, just saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm feeling. And it was actually awesome because people were talking to me. And when I would say, hey, I've got like headaches and fatigue, a lot of people were giving me the advice about electrolytes. And so I didn't really know this. And what it really meant for me was that I needed to increase how much salt I was having. And so I tried different methods like adding salt to water and things like that. I couldn't do that. That was just
very good. Drinking salt water tastes good. Yeah.
I don't know. The people that say that they do it, it just tastes like I'm drinking seawater. It's just
kind of what you're doing. Yeah.
So I just add, lots of salt to my meals, and that seems to be do it. And almost immediately, I just picked up, and the headaches went away, and the fatigue went, and that was probably the only negative drawback, other than cutting out ice cream.
Now, given the nature of your work and history of veganism and being married to another vegan spouse, had you guys shared any of that stuff publicly or online? And then obviously there's a big switch. Any sort of what the heck are you doing now type of stuff, or what's a response been typically?
So my wife has been doing it with me as well. which has been really incredible for her too. And she has like hyperthyroidism and things like that. And it's been really incredible for her thyroid and her hormones. And so it's been incredible to see her journey too. But her side of the family still have questions. She's from Colombia, and it is quite foreign to them, and so there was quite a bit of pushback from her side of the family, just concern because she's cutting out fruit and vegetables, which I think you can understand because it does. That's what we've been led to believe, that fruit and vegetables are healthy, and but I think the way it has just incredibly improved her life, especially she would suffer with migraines as well. And she hasn't had one, like she would have really severe migraines where she would lose vision and cause vomiting. And she hasn't had a migraine since too. So, so she has experienced pushback, and but I think the results really just start speaking for themselves after a period of time.
Yeah, hard to deny. I mean, it's pretty, and it's always nice when you do these experiments because you can directly compare. This is me on a plant-based vegan diet. This is me on a carnivore diet. Which one works better? I think you would argue, and maybe your wife would, that the meat-based diet is providing more benefit. Do you guys? So, what does the diet look like? You said there was dairy from time to time. Sometimes it flares up your eczema. What does a day-to-day or weeks worth of diet look like typically for you and your wife?
Yeah, so we always start the day with our favorite breakfast, and it's actually our favorite meal of the day, which consists of boiled eggs and burger beef patties, which doesn't sound too delicious on the outside, but it's we cook it in butter, and so you pour the butter on top of the beef patties, and if you get your boiled eggs just right, it's just such a great way to start the day. It's just really high fat, high protein breakfast that just really fuels you most of the day. And then at the moment we're having lamb for lunch. We were having pork, but we've just been wanting to get a little bit more red meat into our diet. So we swapped the pork for lamb, which is a really good way of getting red meat without being too expensive as well. And then end the day, we could either have maybe a nicer cut of steak, or maybe something a little bit smaller, which would just be maybe just another burger patty if I'm feeling lazy, or just another piece of steak or something like that.
Yeah, I would imagine you contrast that relatively simplicity, a couple meals, very simple foods, satiating, satisfying, taste good. Contrast that to a vegan diet where it's often very elaborate, lots of planning, lots of cooking, lots of multiple. Is that a fair statement? I mean, on vegan, were you guys cooking all the time?
That's such a good point. That's a really good point. It does take a lot of planning, and you forget how many different ingredients you need. You spend like 20 minutes chopping before you even begin cooking, and then you've got to cook the rice, and there's just so many different components to a meal. And it was incredibly freeing to go from a complex vegan diet and making sure that you have all the different vegetables that you need to eat in a day to just one simple thing that you can just cook up within like 10 minutes. And also when it comes to grocery shopping too, you just go to one shop, you just go to the butcher, or you just go to the meat section in the shop and pick up what you need. And you don't need that much either. It's surprising how filling it is, and you don't actually need to eat as much volume. like you do with the plant-based
What
diet.
about, a lot of people say, well, that's nice and all, but it's unaffordable, too expensive. I would imagine, it's probably comparable, even maybe in Australia. I don't know. I know in the US, a lot of people actually end up saving money, particularly if they're willing to eat like you do, ground beef and eggs for breakfast. It's often cheaper. What's been your experience from a cost standpoint?
I thought so too. I thought it would be more expensive, but it works out to be cheaper because you're not spending money on where the stores where they'll get you on like things like sauces and like processed foods and things like that, where you think they're cheaper, but they're actually quite more of a premium. Also, when it comes to fresh fruit and vegetables, sometimes they go off. And so it does actually end up being cheaper, and you don't need to eat as much. You don't need, like, our shopping cart isn't as full as it used to be. And then we're also saving in areas where you wouldn't expect. Like, we buy such, like, the toilet paper. We hardly go through the toilet paper. It seems like a funny thing to say, but we're actually saving money in so many different areas. And like medical bills, like that's another one that we're saving money on. So you save it across the board, really.
Yeah, and you had mentioned, butter on top of your burger patties, trying to keep the fat up. Are you intentionally eating a very high fat version? Do you guys track any of that stuff?
Yeah, so we're actually starting to get into that now. We're really starting to track what we're doing. And so I actually have some questions around that because at the moment we have found that we're eating a very high fat carnivore diet, and weight loss wasn't ever a goal for us. So that wasn't something that we were overly concerned about. It was more about healing and fueling the brain as well. That was really important. And so I would like to know, like, the differences between going from a high fat diet to maybe cutting it back. What are the benefits? Are there pros and cons? And so we're, I think, around a 3-to-1 ratio for like 70% fat, 40% protein.
You're talking calorically, I assume. So it'd be probably 70-30.
Yeah. So, and that's also a question is that per? So that's per calorie, but then there's obviously per gram. So we're just trying to wrap our head around that difference as well.
I think most people fall somewhere between like equal parts, 1-to-1, which would be about 1 gram of protein, 1 gram of fat is about a little more than 60% fat by calorie. And then if you get up to 2-to-1, 2 grams to fat to 1 gram of protein, it puts you around 81, 82% fat. And most people live within that range, usually equal parts protein and fat. And some people 2-to-1 fat to protein. There's some that go a little bit higher than that for certain specific reasons, if they're really trying to push a ketogenic state for whatever reason. I find that often initially people do better on a very high fat version, and then some people, as they heal more, might gravitate towards a little bit leaner approach depending on their goals and what's going on. So it's, I don't think there's just a one size fits all, even within the same person. I think it changes over time. And again, obviously goals play a role in this. Like there's times when I'll up my fat and my level of ketosis depending on what I'm dealing with. Like I had a neck injury where I had a really bad inflamed cervical, root that caused a lot of pain down my arm from an injury. And I went very ketogenic for a while, and that did seem to help with the neuroinflammation. So I think there's, I think you'll just have to adjust. And as you'll find, as you mentioned, energy, fat is your energy in this situation. There's people that have a lot of stored energy, and people that are really obese, so maybe they don't need quite as much for a period of time. It's variable, for sure. And I would expect that what you're doing now, you may not be doing in 2 years, probably something slightly different, whether it's full carnivore or not, it doesn't really matter that much as long as you stay healthy. So you guys said you're recording your sort of story on social media somewhere, I guess maybe like Instagram, YouTube, or something like that. How has that opened your eyes further? I mean, because a lot of times you'll get a lot of people that'll comment and share some insight. What have you learned about this carnivore experience and the people that are involved? And are we all a bunch of wacko crazies, or what are your thoughts? Hey folks, it's Dr. ShawnBaker here. Hey, if you or someone you love is suffering from chronic disease and you're tired of just managing symptoms with potions, pills, and procedures, I want you to check out Revero.com. Our team of dedicated professionals is committed to tackling the root cause of your issue and finally getting you healthy. Hurry up, though. Our spaces are filling up very quickly.
Look, it's been awesome because just to hear so many stories of how this has helped other people, that has just been so encouraging that you're not alone, you're not crazy. It's really beneficial. It's really opened my eyes to just the whole system of food. And when you go into a grocery store, you're looking at other people's shopping carts, and I just think people really don't have a chance. Really, like they think they're eating healthy food, but it's just most of it is garbage. Most of the supermarket is complete garbage because I've experienced both sides of it. I know how good I feel when you only eat meat, and so it's been incredible. It's also been very interesting when you obviously share your opinions, you get other people's opinion. And I'm finding a lot of people, because I've been talking about calories, and when I bring up calories, it seems to trigger this thought in people's mind is like, oh, calories in, calories out. That's the only thing that matters is calories in, calories out. And I'm talking about trying to improve the quality of the calories that you're putting into your body. But no one wants to hear that. They're just, the only thing that they are concerned about is calories in versus calories out. And that's the only way you can lose weight. And it's like, well, it's not also only about weight loss. Like there's actually healing here. And so it's just been incredible to see. I was ignorant too, right? So I hate to call them ignorant or just I don't know what they really think, but I was there not so long ago. I would have been saying the same things, but that's been very interesting too.
Yeah, that is. I mean, it's really interesting to see. And I've been doing this now almost a decade, and I cannot tell you how many people I've seen just utterly transform their lives for the better. You said you're working on your parents or some other folks. How's that going?
Yeah. So my mum had really inflamed knees, and she was getting to a point where she was struggling to walk. Even it would flare up during the day, and then at night she would be hobbling around the house. And so we thought, hey, you should really try this carnivore diet. It's been incredible for me. And she lives on the other end of Australia, but I visited over the holidays, and we were showing how we eat, and we were cooking for both my parents. And she decided to give it a go this year. And then within like the first week of doing a strict carnivore diet, all the pain in her knees just disappeared, and she could walk again. And now she's getting to the point where she's running on the weekends, and she's going to be able to go exercise now. It's just been incredibly helpful for them. And look, I was nervous introducing the carnivore diet to them because they're a bit older, and I was still also quite new to the carnivore. So just with the whole cholesterol thing. But honestly, it has improved their life so much that, I wish they started it sooner, to be honest.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing because if you're hobbled by arthritic knee pain, and it's just this downward spiral because your activity fails, and then you obviously get all the
Mm.
side effects of being sedentary, and so this opens up the capacity for to gain health. So that's a pretty cool thing. I see that as how old are your folks, by the way? How old are your parents?
They're in their
60s.
60s.
Okay. Yeah. So as someone who is almost 60, I really appreciate the fact that I can still run and jump and do what I want to do, which allows me to maintain my health because we hear so much about, the heart and cardiovascular system, but the reality is you cannot maintain a good cardiovascular system if your joints are all inflamed and irritated because you just become, you just slow down. And that's a real problem. Um, so you said you're in Melbourne, so it seems like all the big cities are clustered in that area. Melbourne, Sydney, that whole coast along there. But what is the general perception of carnivore meat in Australia? I know there's a lot of Australians that have been very pro plant based. Seems like a lot of, I don't know if you guys ever did. They'll go out to Thailand or Bali and hang out and do their plant based vegan lifestyle. It seems like a lot of Australians end up there that are vegans. But what is the current climate for diet sort of tribalism or diet thought in Australia? Are they pushing still hard for the eat the bugs, eat the plants, save the world, all that stuff? Cow farts are boiling the ocean. What's the thought?
Yeah, I think the veganism has really swept Australia by storm. Um, that's been an interesting, and I was riding that wave too. And all the restaurants and everybody provides vegan alternatives, and there's something vegan on the menu. And even talking to friends and stuff about veganism, a lot of people say they've tried it, but meat is also a big part of Australian culture too. So I think it's definitely, there are some strong opinionated vegans, and they're staying strong. But if I'm actually honest, in my circle, all the vegans that I knew are no longer vegan. Even the devout ones, they have all changed their diet for health reasons. And um, my friends and everyone have been very open to doing the carnivore diet. Some have tried it, and a lot of people try it, but they don't stick with it. But yeah, I think we do love our meat, and it is a big aspect of our life. So yeah, it's been very interesting. I think people are still eating the fruit and veggies and the smoothies, as just in general. But there's a real openness to it. I really believe.
Yeah, I think the trends. I mean, I've seen some recent surveys. In fact, I think for the first time ever, I mean, they start looking at consumer, aspirational trends like, do you plan on eating more meat, less meat? And every year for many, many decades, it was always, we're going to cut back on meat. We're going to cut back on meat. But now for the first time ever, they're starting to say the opposite. We plan on eating more meat this year, particularly red meat, because we believe it's healthy. And we've seen that both in Europe and in the United States. And those trends are attributed to a resurgence of concerns around health. Let's make America healthy again. Also, they say that the impact that the carnivore community has, they call us the Carney Bros for whatever reason, as Joe Rogan and some of the other folks that sort of espouse the benefits of meat, has actually had a pretty significant impact on perceptions. And so I think as people, as you mentioned, as these vegans see their health decay and deteriorate, and then they realize that actually meat is helping them, I think we're going to see greater and greater turn away from that. Not everybody's going to go carnivore for sure, but there's going to be more and more of this sort of, okay, that plant-based thing was just a bunch of propaganda that didn't really pan out for the vast majority of people, which I think is good, because I think we need healthy people. Favorite food on carnivore? I mean, obviously you like the egg, the boiled eggs and hamburger, but I mean, if you have like unlimited options and unlimited resources, what are you getting?
I mean, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with the ribeye steak. I think it's a good size. It's got a good amount of fat on it. It's just, to me, it's the king of steaks.
I don't disagree. Yeah, the old, as you guys call them, Scotch fillets down there, don't you? I think that's your. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
Scotch fillet or the entrecote if you're French. Yeah, I consume a lot of ribeyes. I'm very fortunate to be able to do so. So as far as you'd mentioned, you've always been fit. I assume exercised. You said initially maybe some energy. How does that impacted your ability to be active now?
Yeah, it was actually very interesting when it comes to exercise because the first couple of weeks, I'll be honest, like it was a bit more of a slog. It was a bit more difficult. And I, yeah, look, it wasn't impossible. I just felt like I had to push through a little bit more. But once those first initial weeks were up, I've actually been really pushing some PBs actually recently. I just do weight training and I've been stronger than I have been in the past. So it's been really incredible. And a few years ago, before I was vegan, I was training really, really hard and just eating a normal diet. But now I'm hitting those same weights and even pushing it a little bit further. So I'm finding exercise performance pretty good. Like no negatives in that point of view, and feeling strength and recovering pretty well too.
Yeah, and particularly this time in your life, around 30 is you're ideally primed to get strong. I mean, I know when I look back, that is a time in my life when I was my absolute strongest, my kind of my early 30s. Of course, I had a number of years of training leading up to that, but still. Mental health. Do you find it makes a difference cognitively, emotionally, mood-wise? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I have been diagnosed with ADD, and something that I struggle with for all my life. And when I was younger, I did take medication for it, but when I would take it, I would be good. But then when I would stop taking it, I was just useless. So from a young age, I decided never to take medication for it, and just learn to deal with just my ability to not really concentrate, to easily get distracted and things like that, and not really complete tasks. So it's just something I've had to deal with and live with. Along comes the carnivore diet, and I've been able to focus and concentrate, and it's been incredible for these ADD symptoms. So much so that I wish I had the carnivore diet when I was in high school. I would have been able to sit still in class. I would have been able to concentrate. And I really believe it's to do with the steady flow of energy. I think without the highs and lows of the carbs, like the peaks and then the crashes, I think it's just that steady, consistent energy. To me, the way I would describe it is just it's predictable, and I think that really helps me cognitively. And so, in terms of mental health and mental clarity, that's actually what really has allowed me to be like, I really want to do this long term. I think I'm just going to eat like this for the rest of my life, just on that alone, just on how good I feel mentally.
Yeah, fair enough. As long as you're feeling good, I mean, it seems to make sense. As long as it's working and there's no adverse health outcomes you can assess, that seems like a reasonable strategy. Do you guys have any? I mean, is it socially awkward at this point? I mean, because some people say that the biggest negative is it's a little bit socially restricting. Although I think that's not really the case. But what is your thoughts on that?
Look, I was already vegan, so I'm used to the social awkwardness. And so that was actually, I remember when I became vegan, it was hard for me to tell people when I would go to their house, hey, I just eat vegetables and stuff, but I just sort of got used to it. So at this point, I'm already used to it. Yeah, it is harder to eat out, but it's not impossible. Most, if you're going to meet someone for a coffee and you're having breakfast, most do bacon and eggs, and most restaurants have a meat option, and you just don't have to eat the sides. So it's not too hard eating out. I think probably the socially biggest negative is maybe it's just not as convenient. And you can't just go and to a 7-Eleven and pick out something. Like they don't have ribeyes on demand. But you probably shouldn't be eating that anyways. And so the convenience food's probably really making you really unhealthy. So being a little bit more planned in advance is probably better for your health. And we enjoy cooking for other people too. If they're coming over, it was like, hey, no one seems to be upset if we're cooking them mistakes. So
Yeah, I can imagine probably more people if you say, hey, let's come to my house, I'll cook you a big vegan meal, probably less excited than you say, come on, we're going to have steaks, and you get a lot more volunteers. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's how it would probably go.
it's true. It's true. So to me, it's an upgrade.
Yeah, for sure. I'd rather go eat steaks to somebody else, some sort of vegan concoction, which, I certainly wouldn't eat at this point. So, friends that have known you for years, are they like, Jordi's this wacko, first he's vegan, now he's carnivore? What has their perception been? He's just on his latest crazy thing, or what do they think?
Oh, I'm sure there is. Yeah, absolutely. But I think I wouldn't talk about my vegan diet as much as I talk about the carnivore diet. So I wasn't really trying to get my friends to do it. I wasn't pushing it. This was just something that I was doing. It was very personal. It was just because of the girl. And, but this time I'm talking about what I'm eating. I'm talking about how I'm feeling. And I'm like, you really should try it. This would be so good for you. So I am a bit more pushy, but they have noticed changes in me. I mean, I've lost weight, and particularly they just say, oh, look, like your face has changed and your skin is so much better, and things like that. So, and especially my wife too. So gets a lot of compliments like, what have you done with your skin? Like your skin is glowing. And her jawline is just a lot sharper. And so they're noticing the changes, and I think that's why so many of them are trying the carnivore diet, is because they're seeing how we look, and they're wanting to give it a go themselves.
Have you? I know there are, I know there are a lot of carnivore people in Australia. I hear from them quite often. Have you ever met any other carnivores, or you guys? I mean, other than the people you've converted, like your family members, but do you socialize with any of the other folks in the carnivore space?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talk a lot online, but also we recently went to our first event, and that was really cool. And just hearing from other people, other carnivores in the space, and even I think when you get into the carnivore diet, you discover also other health aspects, and how you can help your health through like circadian rhythms and getting vitamin D and all these other things that we're now implementing in our lives through connecting with others. And people are really finding ways to feel their best and feel healthy by not prescribing to the traditional medical system. So not just going for the medications, but there are actually other solutions out there, depending on what you're struggling with. But yeah, it's been really incredible just to meet other people and learn from them how they do their carnivore diet and things like that.
Yeah, it's almost as if like a ribeye steak is a gateway drug into a healthful lifestyle or something like that.
Yeah, it is really the red pill. And then it opens your eyes too. Once you see, you can't unsee it. It's wild, especially when you're going to the shopping center and things like that. You start to see things that just how bad our food is, really.
Is there obviously I'm sure you hear it in Australia. You know, we've got Robert F. Kennedy is part of our political administration right now, trying to make America healthy again. Is there a similar sort of thing in Australia that's occurring? Is a lot of times there's a mirror. Is there a contingent of people that are like doing the same thing there, either politically or just online?
Look, I'm sure there is, and I think a lot of people. I think we're also looking to RFK as well. I think America seems to lead the way and be the influence on most of the Western world, and so we're looking to you guys. So responsibilities on your shoulders to figure it out, and then I think we're usually like a few years behind, and we'll hopefully follow suit. Look, I'm sure there's a political figure that is doing the same, and there are some people in the political space that are concerned about this. Do I know their names? Unfortunately not. But I do know there is I just wish I knew his name. There's one guy who is really pushing the no carb. He's been one of the first people to really go against it was like the Diabetes Association or something, or there was something that was happening where he was prescribing a no carb diet lifestyle to improve your health. And anyways, there was some court cases around that, and he won them. And so it's been actually really, really good for the movement here. That I believe the outcome is that doctors can prescribe a no carb diet lifestyle to help with things like diabetes and things like that. So there have been some really significant wins in that space.
Yeah, I think you might be referring to Gary Fettke, who's an orthopedic surgeon.
I think so.
He's in Tasmania. Yeah, I know Gary very well. He was reprimanded for inappropriately reversing diabetes in his patients by telling them to cut back on sugar, and their diabetes was getting better, and they thought that was inappropriate that he was doing that. So bizarre. It's very, very bizarre. Jordi, well, we're just about out of our time. I really appreciate it. Please share with us your social media handles or anything else you'd like to let people know how they can find out more about you.
Yes, so I've been sharing my journey on Jordinary.Life, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. And I've just been ever since I started the carnivore diet, I've been documenting every single day, and now I'm just sharing some tips and how to make it more sustainable, I guess is the best way I could put it. So just food tips, recipes, just little hacks, especially for people that are just starting the carnivore diet and just checking it out and want to give it a go. Check me out there and drop a comment, and I love talking to the people and other people and what they're struggling with and helping them through that.
Awesome. Well, I just found you guys on Instagram, Jordinary, like ordinary with a J in front of it. So that's great. So thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing that, and thanks for doing this. Again, I appreciate given the time zone difference. Had we known, we could have done that. I sometimes do these Australia ones at a more convenient time. But anyway, enjoy. I don't know if you're going to go back to bed or if you're what you're going to do, but
yeah, I think I'm
go get some sleep and have a good day tomorrow. Anyway, Jordi, thanks so much for doing this, and tell your wife congrats for feeling better.
Easy as. Thanks for your time.